What's up, guys? Pittsburgh White Shorts back again with yet another deck tech. Today I'm going to run through Saekano, the standard memory build. The deck's changed a little bit. I know there's a lot of videos out on it, but wanted to run through sort of my iteration of the deck, very similar to what Kevin won Anime Evo with. Also the deck that I brought to Anime Evo. Sort of running through the build, why some tech cards are in it, and the general strategy before the deck gets probably murdered on an upcoming ban list unless Dal takes the hit for it. So yeah, I just wanted to run through a quick one this week and show you guys the deck with the new tech cards. Getting into the first card, we got the Mill Runner. Just a standard 1000 power Mill Runner, but it has this other effect where you can pay one, send it to memory, check top 4 for a character, and add it to your hand. This is one of our main memory generation cards, one of our main deck speed tools outside of Brainstorm. Very important. Going first, it turns our Field Plus into another card. If we get set straight to level 1, if someone's playing very aggressive, trying to not give us time, as long as we open this, which we run at 4 count, we can turn that Field Plus, if they don't tri-field us, into something that we can actually use. And the memory generation, deck speed, all good stuff. The fact that you can have this card tapped and then use its act ability is very important, and I'll get to that when we get to the event. Moving on, we have the Drop Searcher, Airy Drop Search. It's on play, gives something 2000 power. Make sure we can get over any lane we want to at level 0 with our level 0 lineup. And when it's reversed, pay 1, ditch 1, send this card to memory as part of the cost. That's important. That means stock bombs do remove this, 500 power stock bombs, clock bombs, whatever. And then you search your deck for a character. This is your main hand filtering tool and sculpting tool. So if your opponent is trying to deny this, you're going to have a lot rougher game than you think. You do need this card to sculpt your hand, especially getting into level 1. It's very important. You need to, when playing Saekano and playing memory decks in general, realize how to play to generate memory. You are going to sometimes have to crash this into things if your opponent is trying to deny you memory in smart ways. Not so much by siding, because then they're giving you free pluses. That's pretty good for you as Saekano. Just ramming this in when you have the opportunity to, if you value the sculpt over the plus for any card, because you have some trouble filtering cards out of your hand, especially if you're flooding. You need to ditch climaxes quickly, especially at level 0 if you're trying to tear through your deck as quickly as possible just to reset your deck state. You're definitely going to have to crash these in. You can't risk your opponent denying it. Moving into the next card, we got the JC, Utah JC. When your other game character attacks, gains 1000 power for the turn, so this can possibly swing in at 2/5. You field this in the front row, which is really cool. Then it has the JC effect, like the Shinobu from Monogatari. When your other character is front attacked, you may pay 1, send this to memory. If so, return that character to your hand. I hope you all are recognizing a theme with these cards. They are going to memory. The name of the game is to turn our stock into memory, because our opponent can't interact with our memory easily, as opposed to stock, which can get stock swapped or all sorts of terrible stuff. JC, really important, denies reverses, saves cards that you weren't going to get value out of otherwise, can create open lanes to force your opponent to overswing later in the game, works from the back row, can be tapped down in the back row for the event. Again, I'll get into that later. Just an incredibly strong profile. Not every set gets these, and not every set gets ones that go to memory, notably Saekano and Grisaya are some of the only ones that have memory JCs. Effect is extremely strong. Be aware when this is on the board, if you're playing into Saekano, that you can only get a reverse on this card unless they have 2 JCs down, in which you can no longer get any reverses at all. As the Saekano player, you need to set up your board in a way, dependent on the matchup, that this will be most effective. Note that it is 500 power. If this card gets stock bomb, clock bomb, just kind of like the Airy Drop Starts, obviously you won't be able to use the effect. It's not on the field, as long as they clear it first. It also can get destroyed by minus 500 power cards, notably Slime. We have a tech card in the list to cover that scenario, but if you're playing into a matchup where somebody is, handing out those spot minus 500 powers, just be aware that fielding this, they're going to target it, and you're not going to be able to get the effect. At 3, we have the Utaha Riki. Only 3, just because I've felt that, through my experience, that I haven't been able to get full value off the card at 4, even though it is another one of our memory generators. It's when it becomes reversed, pay 1, clock yourself, send this to memory, grab any game or novel character from waiting room. You can grab anything, so it can set you up if you're already sculpted. You can grab something like a free fresh counter or a 2/1 you want to put in clock for your level 2, so that you can make sure it's in your waiting room or refresh, things like that for your change train. But yeah, just not a card that you should run it for. Even some Saekano lists opt to cut this completely to run other tech cards to, buff up some other matchups, especially with Dal running around. Still a great card. Obviously, it's a plus. Get you to level 1. Forces your opponent to play around it. And if your opponent is like siding it or something, and you have JC on the board, you can pop it to hand, play it again. 1500 power, plus 2000 with the area redrops for 35. You can use this to beat over things if you don't have a JC on board, which obviously could hit up to 45 with an area redrop search. So just an important card in the list, but not important enough to run at 4. Also, our main red fix is the card that you want to put in level for red. Only one of the Kato Brainstorm. Little weird that we're running Run. We'll get into why when we get to the level 1 cards. But it is a self-tap search Brainstorm. Pretty standard, but it also has Act Sack this. Choose a level 1 Brainstorm and put it in the slot this was in, as long as you're at level 1. So this is in the list mostly as a card that we can tap down and then change at level 1 to activate our event. And it's just another 5th way to get into the change train if all of our brainstorms go to clock at level 0 and we need to get them back on the field. It's also a way to put the red brainstormer on the field without fulfilling color identity. If you're at X6 and you clock yourself to level 1 in order to play your level 1 combo, and you still want to have your red brainstorm out so that you can start pulling out, setting up the change train, you can sack this to bring out the red brainstorm, put it on the field, and you're good to go. Okay, so this is the big tech card here. All your level 0s lower in front of this gain 1000 power, so this plays around anything with minus 500 power since it's a continuous effect. As long as those cards are in front of this, they won't be able to be killed by minus 500 power effects, notably screwing over Slime. Also screwing over Slime and also Sal 10th, this is true anti-salvage. As long as your opponent is salvaging any character during the attack phase, all of that player's characters get minus 3 soul for the turn, meaning they aren't going to do any damage to you. This is great against a deck like Slime, where their Shizu combo is just an on-attack cigarette salvage. And then also Sal 10th, not only their Kirito combo at level 1, but also if they plan on using the Pants filter to ditch a climax, which they are allowed to salvage from hand, but if they try to ditch it to then add a character back during the attack phase, which is the main strength of the Pants assist, they will not be able to without losing minus 3 soul to their board. So it really helps edge out those two matchups, and it's just a really bully card for them, as well as the extra 1000 power. Just a really good tech card. And you have such good selection that you only need to run one of it. You can just grab it off your first area drop search or whatever you need to. Not hard to get into the one of. Very strong tech card. Kevin's actually the one that turned me onto this card, and I saw really great results with it, especially even in Anime Evo. So really good card. If you see those matchups in your local meta and you're struggling, or like you've hit by the minus 500 power from Slime, and you say that that's pretty lame, just throw a copy of this in your list, and they won't be able to do it anymore. Moving on to level 1s, we have the Kato combo. So this is, if you have 2 or more other game characters, gains 1000 power, so it's a 5500 cross turn. Pretty important, vanilla stats. And then when you put the bar in the climax zone, meaning even if you end up passing turn or something, you still get the effects. You get pop back when your opponent front attacks it, and then it gets twin drive, so Obero profile. The fact that this is on bar and the fact that it says twin drive means that you can get that deck speed, you can pay out climaxes, and you can trigger more bars. So triggering more bars, and this card blocking back to hand, means you can just loop this turn after turn after turn after turn. And if you're playing into a standby deck, something that's putting out 1/1s, you can do this cool thing called side attacking with twin drive, increasing the chance that you trigger a soul, meaning that you still swing for 2, even though you're siding your opponent's character. Since Kato pops back to hand, in whatever case, if your opponent tries to kill it, as long as you're playing the climax combo, you can just continue to loop it again and again and again and again. Very strong in this list specifically, since we're trying to make sure that we don't have climaxes in our stock. We're paying them out and then when we're triggering doors with this, and then also paying them out with twin drive, we're generating additional selection as well. So the fact that we're only just plussing on this card is only guaranteeing its own plus. The fact that we are guaranteeing clean stock and the ability to trigger more bars, trigger more doors, make sure we can get into the cards we need. The combo is extremely powerful. I think that, in general, is my personal opinion, putting Obero profile on a bar is just really, really absurd. It's just sort of synergy, too much synergy in and of itself, and the fact that this card sits at vanilla stats cross turn, as long as you're playing the game, is also really dumb. Getting into the red Brainstormer, so it is a frontal assist for 500, only on your turn. A lot of people forget that it's only on turn. And then it is also a search Brainstorm, just self-res search. And then it also has the pay 1, send this to memory. At the beginning of your climax phase, as long as you're level 2 or higher, you can choose the level assist, this green 2-1 down here, and put it in the slot this was in. So a turn that you're not brainstorming, a turn that you play the event, you can start doing the change train. The change train is the level 0 Kato into this 1-0 brainstormer, into the 2-1 level assist, into the 3-2 finisher. And then all those cards successfully either sack themselves or go to memory, generating your more memory, making it so that on successive turns, it only costs 1 stock to play your finisher, which heals on play or on change. Just a very strong effect. You're generating additional memory. And again, turns that you don't brainstorm or turns that you want to pay 2 stock, you can brainstorm, then pay 1, send this to memory at the beginning of climax phase, change it into 2-1. Doesn't matter if it's rested or not, you can still do the other effect. Notably, the change effect is an auto effect on this card and the 2-1. So if your opponent has weird anti-act stuff going on, it's not going to work against this. Another thing people forget. It is an auto effect at the beginning of your climax phase where the change occurs. Okay, so this is sort of an auxiliary level 1. It is a 1-0 Kato. It's a Shimakai, so on attack, you give one of your other characters 2,000 power. It's just a way for your Kato combos to get over cards that they're having trouble with. Important in standby matchups, makes them swing in at 7-5, 8-5, depending on your board, depending on if you're playing Climax. Just a way to enable your other cards. And also, more importantly, it has a bar filter effect. So you do have to attack with this first. It does warp your attack order. It's one of the only bad things about the card. But on attack, it gives your entire field draw-drop bar filter. So when you trigger a bar, you can add the bar to your hand, choose if you want to blind stock or not, and then you get to draw a card and ditch a card. Why that's important for Saekano is that if you are flooding, if you have too many climax in your hand, you're trying to get a good refresh because what you're trying to do, you're just trying to disgustingly compress as much as you can in a way that your opponent can't interact with. Saekano, if you haven't noticed, especially in the 0 lineup, outside of the ARE drop search, we don't have a lot of ditch outs. This is our main way that we're going to get ditch outs. And I know that sounds really sacky since we're only running 4 bar and we have to trigger a bar. However, this tied to the Shimakai effect, sort of a bonus, sort of effects that are both individually pretty good, but on the same card, means that we can run this at 2 and not feel too bad about it. The filter is a lot more important than people give it credit for, especially over long events where you're going to have bad games. You're going to have to play like 7, 8, 9 rounds in one day at a tournament. God forbid, get top 8, and then you keep playing. The fact that this adds additional consistency to your deck, allowing you to ditch cards out of your hand, something Saekano generally has problems with, means it is a warranted inclusion. I've seen this down to 1. I think that's fine. It just means that you're being greedier somewhere else in the list. But it is a very important card, and I think that you can't cut it. It's too important for long tournaments. All right, another tech card. This is from the Saekano Flat, the second set. This Errori is a 6,500 on turn, just all the time. And then as long as it's attacking a level 2, this card's a 12-5. So this card is a standby hate card. Notably, this puts you over a 2-2 Toka that has been buffed by a single Toka back row. So it forces your opponent at the very least to have a counter. And then if they only have 1 Toka in the front row, which, you know, going into level 1 turns, that's pretty common unless they're sacking you really hard. In which case, I don't think any deck has a chance of winning the game against Al, really, if they're going that hard on you. But this card is a great answer to standby, great answer to the standby meta. It allows you to keep up your game plan and then also clear your opponent's field. Making sure that your first attack doesn't go under Dal. The second you go under the first lane against Dal and they have the Toka on board, you've practically lost the game. It's a little hyperbolic, but the second you go under the first lane in any way against Dal, they get that first scry. So then every single attack after that, they're going to be able to scry for cancels, elongate the game, just playing into exactly what they want to do. So this is an important card to at least threaten them to not be able to do that. And it's green. It's an easy include. You got the space in the list. Easy one of. And if you have a JC on board, one of the great ways to deal with a standby deck is to play this down in the front row, clear your opponent's card, and then when your opponent attacks into it, you have a JC in the back row. You pop that JC, you add this back to your hand, and then you kill the new 2-2 that they've moved to the front row so that you can loop this card, even as a 1 count, to continually clear your opponent's 2-2s. Alright, the Up All Night event. This card is absolutely ridiculous. Rest 2 game characters. They don't stand on your next stand phase. And then as long as you rest 2 characters that way, search for a game character from your deck, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck, choose up to 1 game character away your room, put it into your stock, and then this goes to the bottom of your deck. Extremely strong effect in this deck specifically because we have all these cards that you see down here at the bottom that don't give a shit if they are rested or not when they do their own abilities. The runner can pay 1 pop itself, top check 4. The brainstorm can sack itself and change to the other brainstorm. The brainstorm can pay 1, send itself to memory, turn it to the 2/1. Obviously, JC doesn't need to be standing to use its ability. And then the 2/1 can turn itself into the combo if you play this card on your level 3 turn. Absolutely insane card. I've seen lists run this at 4. I think that's completely acceptable. Event is absolutely ridiculous. It's one of the biggest enablers for the deck. The fact that all the memory generation costs stock on the deck, this just makes it free. It is a big part of why Saekano is so oppressive in the memory department, because they are taking the edge off that stock cost with this card. Every turn that they play it, as long as they're setting up some way that they can rest cards that don't matter and turn them into something else, or turn them into memory, turn them into mill, or at the very baseline have a JC in the back row that they want to just chill back there anyway. Card's really insanely strong. The 2/1, just a level assist, not anything important, just a level X. Since you're mostly looping level 1s in the deck, not a lot of value at level 2. They can sort of protect the early play a little bit, but you don't really want to burn your counter, which we'll talk about in a second, just to protect your early play. You would rather burn through your deck on the following turn using your stock and then playing another early play. Because if you do free fresh, especially on first attack, you might just triple cancel. It's like with the way Saekano works, more a often scenario than possible, and then you won't be able to play your early play again. So not really something you're looking to put out other than to keep your change train going, because this card is pay 1 in this memory beginning of your climax phase, change into the kekw finisher, which is a healer and has a bunch of other effects. So this is just the worst part of the change train, but card's fine. The change train is too powerful to say you aren't going to run it or do something like that. It's part of the reason why the deck works. Refresh counter. If you don't have this green one, you can use the red one from set 2. That's fine. Green is just a better color for the deck. And this card has kekw on it, so better. It's also a promo that's expensive, so you can stunt. It's a refresh counter. Really important for Saekano if you do have a turn where you're not comboing and you like disgustingly double or triple trigger. This is a card that you always want to have in your hand to just hit that panic button, refresh, and continue to disgustingly cancel the rest of the game. You really want to only use this in those panic button scenarios. Because free freshing in Saekano, since all of your compression is in memory, paying 3 doesn't negatively influence your compression as much as you'd think. So it's a really strong card, and it can guarantee double, possibly triple, or at least single cancels. You absolutely need to win, and you had a bad trigger or something like that, a run of bad triggers. Very strong. And again, you can run the red one if you don't have the promo. kekw finisher. It's off door, very strong. Like I said, good interaction with the twin drive. Gives us extra selection. Recollection stuff, this is basically free. It's impossible to not have 4 or more cards of memory with this deck. If you do like 1 change train and like played level 0s, you've fulfilled this condition. So it's 11k, your turn only. Your opponent can't play backups, and this card has hexproof. So they can still play event counters. You can get like seizured, but you can't get money countered, and they can't play any backups, which is important because this card's only swinging in for 12. But when your opponent can't back up, 12's totally fine for getting reverses. And obviously, this card heals either on play or on change from the memory effects from the change train. And then it has on reverse, pay 1, burn 2. That's just a really disgusting number in general. Just on reverse, pay 1, burn 2. It means you can tap all the way out on your stock, play a full field of this, and for every single one that you swing with, you can, pay 1, burn 2. And even just having 1 stock, as long as you have another 2/1 on the field, if this gets run over, probably is, because it's only 9k on the next turn. If you have a 2/1 on field in the back row, you can shove that up and change it again the next turn to heal again. Really strong interaction. Change Train is just incredibly busted. Just a really strong finisher. And the numbers on it and the combination of effects of the memory, the fact that the memory is pretty much incidental to the deck, just makes it even stronger. Really strong finisher, good against compressed decks. 2's a good number. Then lastly, we have the Kato early healer. 2 or less early play, on play heal, and then on attack, Shimakai, another character, 500 power times field. Helpful in the mid game to help your Katos as your looping combo get over things. And then also a healer. We're a deck that wants to sit at level 2 as long as possible. Generate memory, refresh in disgusting ways, continue to elongate the game, generate more compression to the point where we become practically unkillable, so long as we don't have bad trigger turns. And even then, sometimes we're still unkillable. Very important to the deck. I've seen people up this to 3, think that's fine, but means you're being a little greedy on this and you're bringing down sort of the rest of your deck a bit. But it is an important card. I could see it being run at 3. Big ass, simple, strong, important for our strategy. 8 plussing triggers, pretty simple. Really good synergy with Twin Drive. The fact that the Oboro is popping back to our hand, the Kato Oboro, and the door giving us the much needed selection that we need outside of the Aerie drop search. We can have trouble selecting for cards. Top Check 4 is like kind of okay adding, but like the door really puts us where we want to be. And the fact that we're able to then pay it out. Door with Twin Drive has always been strong. If you're someone who plays mostly English, GGO 8 door, that's sort of like the poster child for how strong that interaction can be. Here's the whole list. Pretty simple. My list outside of these 2 tech cards, the 2 Aeries, the level 0 and the level 1, is pretty standard, pretty canned. The list is tried and true. The list works. You can tweak the ratios if you'd like. I've seen people greed down to like 3-1 Kato brainstorms and adding like a Climax Stitch Salvage. I think that's okay, especially because that card's foil. It has a Kato on it, so it's a good card to add to the deck. When you see these topping lists in Japan, they all look the same for a reason. The Change Train eats a lot of slots, and a lot of these cards are just sort of must-plays, just because not only do they generate memory, but the interaction with the rest of the deck. Things can be rested, then popped, sort of enabling the event. Lots of extremely strong synergy here. So, very clean counts outside of our 3-4 1-ups here is to be expected. And that's basically it for Saekano. We'll have the Encore decks linked down in the description. And here's all the links that we leave at all the ends of all our videos. We have the Card Games Discord, Competitive White Schwartz Discord. If you're looking to play games, hang out, talk Weiss, talk about the meta, this is where you want to go. We don't run or operate any of these Discords, but we know the people that do. They're awesome guys. And you should definitely check those out if you're looking for a place to hang out and talk about Weiss. If you're looking to buy, sell Weiss, definitely check out the Facebook groups. The global community also has spoilers that are translated for JP and English. All the news is posted there. There's also some discussion that happens, mostly buy, sell, trade, and reveals, stuff like that. It's a way to get hype for new sets. And also have all our Twitters down here for all of our recurring cast. And I think that's it. Pittsburgh White Schwartz signing off. See you guys in the next one.